So for AWS, especially the monitoring or administrative services, there are plenty of options that is available. We have notification services, we have alert services, and email services like SES, and metrics services that is like CloudWatch. So today we are going to see some of them, and then we will see how to set up alert services and get an email in our account. So that's what we're going to look at today. So briefly, we are going to see what is SNS, what is CloudWatch, what is CloudTrail, and what is SES also, and how to make use of them appropriately. So these are the things that we are going to see today. So before going into SNS, which is a notification service, we need to understand a little bit about the SES service, that is the email service that Amazon offers. And in the email service is outbound service only. This is SNS, but in depth we'll see SES also. The SES is an email outbound service. You cannot receive emails from, there is no inbox for you in AWS. There is only an outbox. This is mainly for mass marketing emails of those kind of things. If you want to send, say, for example, 10,000 emails to tell users or inform users about your new product, or if you are having an event, then you want people to be informed about that event, then you use this kind of services. So that is when you use an SES. So SNS indirectly uses SES to, not indirectly, SNS can push notifications in multiple ways. SES is also one of those ways. I will show you a quick demo on how to set up SES also in your account, so you can also send and receive emails. And remember, there are some throttling or limits in your account. The number of messages that you can send, and the number of messages per whole day you can send, number of messages per hour you can send. So there are multiple limits in your account. Of course, if you have a valid business case, you can go ahead and ask Amazon to increase the limit so that you can send more emails. The limits are basically to avoid people using this service to send spam emails. So that is the reason there is a limit. And coming back to SNS, this is the notification service. Let us go ahead in detail into SNS itself and see where the SES comes into picture when we are talking about SNS. So it is a simple notification service. It is for publishing messages from an application and immediately delivered to your subscribers or any other application. Meaning, let us say if you have an EC2 server and for some reason the EC2 server is having some issues and it is going down, if you can pick up those messages from your system D, or Amazon gives you enough notification when it is going to take a server offline, because the status will change from in service to out of service in the health checks. So you can have notifications triggered from that application or that EC2 server and deliver it to another EC2 server or service like auto scaling and say that this server has gone offline or this server is going to be out of service. Start another one or trigger a backup or any kind of events. So you can have two services talk to each other by triggering a notification between them, and that notification can be configured with the SNS, or it can be configured with based on CloudWatch alarms or any kind of services that is possible. So whenever you want to set up a notification type of alarm, that is a publishing one-to-many kind of relationship, then SNS is your service that you need to think of. And it is a push model. It is not a pull model. When I say push model, it is this service is going to push the messages outward to the recipients or subscribers here in this case. So that is the push model, and SNS is one of those services. So the SNS architecture looks something like this. You have publishers, the people who are creating those messages, or resources that is creating those messages, and then they forward the messages to the SNS topics or headings. Think of it like an RSS feed. You go to a Google News feed or your friend's news feed in Facebook. So there are multiple feeds or topics available. So the publishers are pushing the messages to the SNS topics, and then the topics can in turn send notifications through email, or they can send HTTP notifications or SMS notifications, or in fact even mobile push notifications. So SNS can push notifications in any of those four options. And the most commonly used is email and HTTP notifications, because email notifications can be processed by some human or downstream system very easily, whereas HTTP webhooks or messages can be processed by applications. And SMS is for your product or your service that you are creating or consuming. So you want to mass market your product, then you do SMS notification. We all receive SMS notification when there is a discount for a product, or some discount because of rain or something like that. Uber sends a lot of SMS notifications like that. And mobile push notifications, we all have received it. So let's skip on to the next one. So it is some of the benefits of using SNS is it is very fast and flexible, and global messaging to any device or an endpoint. When I say any device or an endpoint, because you have multiple options. If you want to reach a mobile, you can use an SMS or mobile notifications. If you want to reach an email box, then you can send an email notification. If you want to receive another service, like service to service, like Slack channel, you have. For monitoring team, then a server going offline can inform the monitoring team through the Slack channel. So it is very easy to set up, and it is pretty much flexible and scalable, because whether you are sending one message or 1,000 messages or a million messages, the service automatically scales up to the amount of messages that you are sending. So it is absolutely Amazon's responsibility to ensure the scaling part of it, and you don't have to do anything for the scaling. And also you can send your notifications all across the globe. So your infrastructure is built to send the notifications to any region or people in any continent. Amazon takes care of pushing the messages to the appropriate destination. So you are not setting up the infrastructure to manage the scale of it. So that is some of the benefits of SNS. The typical use cases is something like this. We all spoke about this. So if you want to do a broadcast, that is a one-to-many identical messages, you want to send it to many users, that also you can do. Or if you have a direct targeted campaigning, like Uber knows that you have taken a lot of rides and then they want to give you a special discount. So they would have done some analytics and found out some out of 100 users, 10 users need to be pushed for a special campaign. Then they will send that to a direct campaigning. Or it is a closed loop analytics, like for example, sometimes if you do buy something in a supermarket or a bazaar, they will send you a message saying that last time you bought this, this time we have this complimentary package, do you want to buy this? So you can have very targeted messages in a closed loop between your publisher and the end receiver. So these are all the simple use cases at a very high level. There are very, I mean, you can take this, extend it, you can combine a combination of these things, or you can have your own use case. There is no hard and fast rule like this is what you need to do, but quite commonly SNS is being used for one of these use cases. We will go ahead and set up a demo for SNS in a short while. Before that, we'll just look at the CloudWatch monitoring service, which is going to be our publisher in this case. If you remember, SNS is a middle agent which delivers the message to multiple people. We need a publisher here, and the publisher in AWS is going to be a CloudWatch most of the cases, because we are going to set a monitoring system and an alerting system, and the alerts are going to be created by CloudWatch. So typically, AWS CloudWatch is very similar to many monitoring tools that you might have encountered in your career, like IBM Tivoli or HP OV, or anything similar to those kind of popular tools that you have in the market. It is a monitoring service for cloud resources and applications that you run on AWS. What it typically does is it collects a lot of metrics, it tracks those metrics, and it creates a log files in your S3 account. And based on those logs and metrics that you have collected, you can define your threshold, saying this is my batch management server or batch processing server. So it is okay to run my batch processing server at 80-90% utilization. Or when it comes to my database server, I don't want it run more than 80% or 60% utilization. So something like that, you set your thresholds based on the server, the workload that you're running, and then you can trigger an alarm appropriately. So basically, it monitors the different kind of metrics like CPU, network, service state, health check states, response scores, all those things. Then it allows you to track those metrics and define thresholds to trigger alarms. So that is what CloudWatch is. Your very simple architecture will look like this. You have your CloudWatch and you have the AWS resources that support CloudWatch. It can be any type of resource. We are not particularly talking about servers or storage. It can be even your ELB. You can have a Route 53 also checking, health checking events, or you can have notifications configured from your S3 buckets also. So there are any type of resources that supports there are multiple resources that supports CloudWatch. So it could be any one of them that we are seeing here. And once the first thing is it creates a lot of logs. Every resource creates a lot of logs if you configure it. So all these logs are sent into CloudWatch or under the management of CloudWatch. So it could be CPU utilization or status check failed for an example here. So the next step is you define custom metrics. If you want your application to be monitored for additional parameters, you can configure your own scripts in your operating system level or an application level, and you define those custom metrics also to be picked up by CloudWatch. That is also possible. So you have logs now, you also have your metrics. So then you create your statistics here. So once you have your available statistics, that is from these metrics, you can make a measurement saying my server is performing well, my server is not performing well, and you can do that with your AWS management console or even with your own console. So the once you have your analytics done, then the next step is to trigger alerts. So it's just a logical flow. You have your logs, you have your metrics based on the logs, and then your alerting system based on those logs. So now CloudWatch determines that an alert has to be created or alarm has to be created based on the alert that you set up. So this alarm will notify downstream actions. Either that action can be any of the three notification actions that we saw. It could be an SNS email notification, or it can be a notification to your auto scaling to trigger an action scale in or scale out. It can be an EC2 recovery. For example, there are certain type of instances in the C and M group instances. You can go for the entire list in the Amazon web page. But remember that there are certain group of instances. Whenever they go out of service, you can create a CloudWatch alarm to set them to auto recovery. In other words, the server will come back online if we are using an EVS disk. And whenever CloudWatch determines the server is gone out of service, the alert will trigger and alert will automatically recover the service also if you're using the appropriate instance. So it is definitely possible to auto heal in Amazon if you use the right architecture. So following up on the same theme, what are the alarm actions that you can take? So we saw that CloudWatch is the publisher here, and it is publishing an SNS email notification. And when you're having an email notification, you have all these different type of actions you can have. You can email it to your monitoring team, or send it to another downstream ticketing tool to for auto ticketing, or you can send it to an SMS or pager duties, another fantastic service. People send alarms to their pagers for notifications or mobile push notifications. These are all the different actions that is possible when you do an SNS alarm. If you send it to auto scaling instead from CloudWatch, you have these three options that you can check out. That is scaling out events, scaling in events, or maintain health check. Just ensuring that auto scaling is maintaining the required number of resources at the desired level. If you want to trigger it to an auto recovery service of EC2, then you will have these three possible actions available to you. Either you can recover that instance or stop that instance or terminate that instance if you identify that something is going bad with that instance. So depending upon where you're sending the CloudWatch alarm, then you can have these possible actions triggered. So a combination of these things are also possible. Then you can take the appropriate action depending upon your customer needs. So just moving forward, CloudTrail. This is a very interesting and a very simplest of topics. This is mostly used for compliance reasons. This is nothing but every API call that is made to your Amazon account. It can be through your GUI, it can be through your CLI, it can be through your programmatic access, or any request that is made to your Amazon account will be logged and registered in CloudTrail if you enable it. And it is a global service. When I say it is a global service, it means that you have to enable it in one place. I mean, all the logs will be collected in one place. That is Virginia region, if I'm not wrong. Everything from all the regions, all the logs are collected and put in a S3 bucket. and you can use some other service like Splunk or Elasticsearch to do some processing there. Basically, it's just a record of all the API's calls and delivers as log files to you. And as you can see at the bottom, it identifies the caller or the person who's making the API call, the time of the API call, the source IP request parameters, and response elements. That is, what is the response AWS gave for that request. So almost everything is recorded. If you enable it, it will keep rolling. Think of it like an audit daemon that you used to run in Linux or AX servers, or the I forgot the Windows services name, but we have something like security events and monitoring events are possible in Windows also. It is very similar to those services that we see there in Linux and Windows. So, we spoke about this: who made the call, when they made the call, what was the API call about, why, on what the requested they had requesting, or what is the actions they were requesting, and where the API call was made from, whether it is made from American region, European region, or those kind of things. So it registers all of these things. So basically, this is for compliance reasons and for finding out what went wrong when something really goes wrong. So you should remember this. This is a very good, fantastic troubleshooting or a problem determination tool when something is changed in your account. And complaints or auditors quite often ask for this report. They either run their own metrics or they ask you to perform some queries on your CloudTrail logs and ask you, say, for example, give me the request that was made from this date to this date. So recently, one of my friends is working on a request. Their systems were affected by one of the recent Petya virus or some of those viruses. They had to restore some systems because of the virus attack. And the auditors are going over the last 6 to 8 months of requests that has happened in their account. So they're looking at the CloudTrail, they're looking at CloudWatch, all kinds of logs the auditors are looking at. So this service is very, very useful in those kind of scenarios to understand what went wrong. So this is a typical architecture or an overview of how CloudTrail looks like. So you have people on the extreme left-hand side, that is where we are starting. So you have people that is making the API calls, either they are making it through an SDK, that is a standard development kit, or they're making it through a CLI command or using a console itself. So you have these multiple options through which people can interact with AWS. They are making a when I'm saying API call, for people who are not familiar, it might be a simple activity of listing the bucket or clicking on the bucket to show what are all the objects are there. So that request is considered as a list action, list bucket objects. That is the exact bucket policy that you are triggering or API call that you are triggering. So if you click on, let us say, upload, you are doing an S3 put action, or if you're deleting it, it's an object delete API call. So these are all the API calls that you are making. Likewise, if you click on launch instance and finally you click on the launch button, then the request that you're creating is an easy to create API request. So those are all the requests that we are talking about. Everything gets logged in. So you are requesting in the AWS account multiple services, and all these services send a notification to CloudTrail, and CloudTrail in turn will store the logs in your S3 bucket, and it will you can possibly configure CloudWatch to monitor these log events in CloudTrail, and then you can trigger alarms, and it also helps you to troubleshoot when something goes wrong. So this is just a logical overview, just to make you understand where CloudTrail fits into the entire architecture or in AWS itself. There's not much. It's very simple and straightforward. So when we are talking about triggering an alarm or alarm state, yeah, there we go. So what here happens is when you want to troubleshoot, you understand that somebody has created a user account at 1:30, and then there is another person who came and deleted it at 2:40. Then you trigger an alarm to CloudWatch, and then CloudWatch will automatically create that account, or will ask somebody to create an account or raise a ticket so that somebody can come and fix it. So that is how you combine CloudTrail along with CloudWatch to monitor your health checks or monitor your system and fix something goes wrong. So that is how you do that. So this is another overview. You can ignore the left hand side if you follow it. That's great. It allows you to automate many of the security tasks that is necessary with your account. For example, security analysis or tracking changes. You can think of it as a cloud-based configuration management. You have cloud config is also for that, but you can work reverse way by triggering what are all the changes are there that is being made, and start writing it to a database and keep track of everything. And then you can have a compliance log to prove what was wrong, and what was the wrong region, or what was the wrong services that you don't want to use. So those kind of things, and troubleshoot operational issues. When something goes wrong in your account, the first thing you want to know is what has changed, who has changed it, when was it last working fine, and when was it last changed. So those kind of operational issues happens if the CloudTrail logs is very helpful in those kind of scenarios. You can quickly go ahead and do a search in the CloudTrail window itself, or you can run your own Elasticsearch queries, or Splunk kind of queries. Depending upon your account setup, you can do any of those mechanisms. So on the left hand side is your logical overview of the different services that feed into CloudTrail, and similarly it puts everything into a designated bucket that you can see here. Here the flow is top down. It goes like this. So all the services are going to send their API call request information to CloudTrail, and CloudTrail will send it to the bucket, and that optionally it will send it to SNS also to trigger notifications. And then you can do log analysis by AWS partners. So this is what I'm saying. Splunk is one of the AWS partners. ELK stack is another. Elastic Logstash Kibana is another stack that people use for analyzing some of the logs. So you can use any of them depending upon your customer's needs. It can also help in one of the complicated setups that we start to see it. For example, there are multiple accounts are getting integrated. It is not just your own company will be accessing your resources. Sometimes you will have to give access to your account to some third parties also. You will probably set up an IAM account, or you can give access to their IAM account in your S3 buckets. So in those cases also you want to do some granular access, and then do some analytics on top of those access and logs. So in those kind of scenarios, the CloudTrail is very helpful. And remember that this is not a hypothetical scenario. This is happening, and definitely there are some requests that will need to be analyzed, and we need to know how to set it up also. Finally, some best practices: enable it in all regions. That is the best thing to do. There is no, if you're using it in only one region, say if all your resources are in only one region, then use it for only one region. But in other words, when I say enable it in all regions, you mean to enable it in all the places, all the regions where you are running your resources from. And you enable log file validation. That is, whenever somebody is trying to edit the log file itself, then you need to validate those requests also, because you don't want people to mess around with your log files, because everything is written as a log file in your S3 bucket, and you don't want a malicious user to go ahead and delete the log files itself. And you if you remember, S3 allows you to encrypt your buckets. So encrypt your bucket whenever possible, or whenever you think that it is important and you want to keep the information very secure. Encrypt the bucket so that any unauthorized user who has access to your buckets will not be able to access the information inside those buckets, because the log files are using the KMS keys which is tied to your account. So even if they download those files or by some means, they will not be able to access the files or the contents of those files. So finally, integrate it with your CloudWatch so that you can trigger alarms, and you can centralize logs from all different accounts also. So if you have multiple accounts linked, so do that as well. So these are the best practices of CloudWatch. So let us go ahead and see what else we have here. If not, we could just go ahead and do a demo of CloudWatch and CloudTrail. Just a brief introduction to simple email service, SES. I spoke about this in the beginning. Just a brief introduction here is it's an email notification service for sending bulk transactional emails. And if you guys don't know, or if you guys are not familiar, your internet service provider, it might be or Verizon, it might be or Airtel, or it might be anybody, but they have a lot of checks on their servers to filter unwanted emails or spam emails. So if your email doesn't look legitimate, that is when most often your email tends to land up in the spam box or junk mail or any of the other folders other than inbox. So whenever you're sending an email, there are a few key parameters, like you have to have your domain keys identified. Your email should not be marked as spam by the receiving community, and you are should be authorized for sending bulk emails both by your ISP as well as your email service provider. So when you use a service like SES, some of those parameters are requirements are already checked off. For example, Amazon ensures that you are not sending bulk emails or unauthorized emails, and most of your recipients will have to be approved by Amazon or pre-approved, or your recipients has to acknowledge that they are ready to receive emails from your SES service. So only then you will be able to send SES emails to those inboxes. So by having some of these rigorous checks built in, you will be able to send bulk emails. And if in case the email is not received, or for some reason the email is not delivered, you can reconfigure it to retry again. So it can give you an analytics of how many emails it was successfully able to send, how many emails it was not able to send. Because when you're sending bulk emails like 10,000 or 20,000 or a million emails, you want to have those kind of metrics also available to you, so that you know what is a successful message sent and what is the unsuccessful messages, whether you want to resend those unsuccessful messages or you want to take some other actions to reach those consumers or users. So those are the things that are possible with SES. So here we come to a CloudWatch demo. I am currently in the SNS dashboard of my account. So this is how the dashboard looks like. You can see here the summary of the things. I have already 3 topics, and there are 2 subscriptions to those topics configured. If I'm not wrong, one must be the S3 notification, and it could be another one could be an ASG, that is auto scaling group notification. But anyway, the first thing that you want to do in SNS notification is you have to create a topic, then you need to create a subscription for that topic. So for creating a topic, let us go ahead and click on topics here, and then click on create new topic. So the topic name is going to be, let us say, EC2 monitoring topic. And there is some restriction here about 10 characters if I am not wrong. So we need to be careful about the topic name we are choosing. Server monitor. See here, as you can see, there is a restriction on the number of characters that we can use in the display name of the topic. 10 characters is a max. So server monitor, let me see. So click on create topic, and you should see it here. This is the new topic that we just now created. Let me go ahead and hit refresh. EC2 monitoring topic is the one that we just created. Let me just click on this. Right, there's no actions. I mean, what you need to do is sometimes you can assign some more policies. You can confirm a subscription, add a subscription, or edit a topic policy. For example, if you click on edit topic policy, or it will show me where all I want to deliver my outputs to. So here, if you can see here, allow the users to subscribe to this topic. So only me, I'm going to say everyone can subscribe to this topic. And then what are the delivery metrics I want to do? I want to do only SES or email or JSON notification. Here you have email, and email as a JSON, and you have SMS. So you can configure any of these things depending upon your requirement. And I'm going to be the only one who is going to be able to publish to this topic, whereas the subscribers can be anybody. So it could be everyone or anybody which is an endpoint that matches this URLs. So I'm just going to leave it as everyone and update policy here. So we can have a subscription to this policy. For subscriptions, what we do is we go to the subscriptions tab on the left hand side, and we are going to create a subscription here. So if anybody's enterprising want to give their email address, you can give it to me, so we can add it to this here. By the way, I need the topic ARN also. We need to copy the topic ARN here. Just let me go back to the topics and copy the ARN from there. This is the topic and this is the topic ARN. As you can see the heading here, I'm just copying this, going to my subscription, create a subscription, put the topic ARN, put the email option. I'm just going to say easy to monitor, or we kept it as server monitor, right? It is any email address, sir. Does anybody want receive notifications when doing this? If you put it my chat window, I can copy paste it. So once you create a subscription, the next thing is to accept the subscription. You can see here it says pending confirmation. So if I go to my email address, there will be a request for me to confirm that subscription. Let me just go ahead and confirm the subscription. So if I go ahead and refresh, you can see here the new topic has been subscribed to, and my email address is here, the one that I created just now, this one, k.u.mar, this one is subscribed to. So if I want to delete this, I can delete this, or if I want to modify it, I can modify it. But as of now, I don't want anything. Let me go ahead and start a server and then create a notification to this alarm. So the next step is what you can do is you can go to CloudWatch, or you can go to your S3 bucket and use this notification. If you want to go ahead and use this S3 bucket, and if you want to use an S3 bucket, there are some additional policies that needs to be done. For example, if you can see here, I'm just going to go here. If I click on this and edit topic delivery policy or topic policy, wait a second, one of them. Yeah, here you go. In the advanced view, you need to have this policy. You can Google this policy and attach it to your account. That means that the SNS topic should, I mean, the S3 bucket should be able to publish to all these topics. Here you can see here, I have configured my S3 bucket. If you remember, we used Lambda processing for processed image data. Serverless image processing, we did a Lambda, and I configured the Lambda notification for this bucket. And then whenever there is an update to this bucket, or any put or delete to this bucket, I will get a notification. So this policy is mandatory for your S3 event notification to happen. So there are services like S3 which require additional permissions to be attached. Then only when you attach those policies, we will be able to get those notifications. For example, I set this up earlier. Let me just go ahead and see if there are any additional policies that has been attached to it. So you can see here, there is nothing much. It is just a service owner that I can publish it. That is what it mentions here. There are no additional policies that needs to be added for this one. Cancel. Let me go to my S3 bucket. If I go to my processed image data here and go to properties, and if I go to events here, you can see here one active notification, and that active notification is, let us say, edit. It will be showing SNS is S3 event notification demo, and if I click on down, if I choose the drop down, you can see the other notification topics that we have created. So once I add that policy, then S3 notification will start sending SNS, and SNS will in turn forward it to my email address. So that is for S3 configuration of your CloudWatch. Let us go ahead and do it for EC2 now. Let me just duplicate it. EC2, let us go ahead and start a server. Are we in a different region? Okay, looks like we are in Virginia. Let me just shift back to Mumbai. where is public? Let us give a public IP address so that we can configure it. Just want to add those web pages. Now that we have launched a server and our web server must be getting ready, it should be available anytime. I'm just going to make it like this. And you can see here currently it says description, status and monitoring. You can see here there are no alarms that is configured right now. So the easiest way is to just go ahead and click and create alarm. So automatically the instance ID and all the parameters are available to you. This is the easiest way to create an alarm for an EC2 server. Just click on EC2 and it pops up with create alarm field, and you can see here send a notification to. It is asking me where I want to send a notification. So click on this drop down window and choose the one we just now created. That is this is the one we just now created, server monitor. Okay, and you remember here I spoke about the recover option. If it is a C4 or a M4, there are certain group of instances that you can recover whenever the server goes offline. This is what it means: automatically repair this instance in the event of a status check failure. And it also gives you the nice message that I spoke about. You can only recover certain EC2 instance types. So if you just go ahead and click on that, it will give you more about auto recovery. But I cannot say, for example, auto recovery because we started it with T2 micro. And what at best we can do is, let us say we can terminate that instance. But for terminating, we need to trigger an appropriate EC2 actions role. We can probably go ahead and add this role to. We have already attached a server with this role. And I think we should be create an IAM role. Yeah, let us do that. So when we want to trigger this, when the we cannot trigger a CPU, we cannot trigger a CPU spike. Okay, that is taking action. Let us be as it is. And when CPU, what is the best way to check out? Let me click on reboot here, because if I put the server into stop state, I want to see whether it will reboot the server and pick it up automatically. Status check failed. Any, it can be any. Yeah, any means if status check is failed for any reason, then it will trigger an alarm. Okay, name of this alarm is this. You can have it any friendly name you want. So that is what we are going to do. If it is going to consecutively fail for 2 times and it is going to check every 1 minute, that is going to be our alarm here. So our alarm is created. If you created an SNS topic or add a new email address, each new address will receive a subscription email, blah, 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 within 3 days. Okay, that must be confirmed, that is accepted. The request must be accepted within 3 days. So you see that it has started monitoring. Earlier it was says, earlier this field was saying there was no alarms configured. Now you can see here that is 1 of 1 insufficient data. That means 1 alarm is configured, and as of now the monitoring system doesn't have enough data to say that whether the system status has failed or successfully passed. So let us click on refresh. It takes about a couple of minutes. If you remember, we need to get it on every minute 2 times. So let me just meanwhile open CloudWatch service itself. If you remember, we used CloudWatch for doing the VPC flow logs. It's the same dashboard that we are going to see now. We just saw the logs part of it. Now we are going to see the alarms part of it. There are 3 states for an alarm. That is, the alarm can be in alarmed state. That means an alarm has been triggered, or insufficient data, or okay. When it says insufficient data, it doesn't have enough information to make that call as of now. So you can see here the various alarms that we configured. This is for auto scaling that we configured. All these things, these 3 things are for auto scaling. This is the one that we just now created, where status check is failed is greater than 1. So it is collecting the data as of now, and it says that it has insufficient data to make a decision whether it is an alarm status or in OK status. Sometimes I have seen exam questions on this. What are the different alarm status that you can have? So, and you need to remember, by default you will not have a detailed monitoring, that is a 1 second, 1 minute monitoring. You need to enable detailed monitoring in your account. Somewhere you can see here, yeah, in CloudWatch, you see here, I'm in the EC2 dashboard, and it says that CloudWatch metrics is basic. When you're starting an instance, there will be an option to say enable detailed monitoring for that instance. I can quickly show that. Just going to click on server launching sequence again. Somewhere here, yeah, here you see there, where is that? I missed it. Yeah, here. So whenever you want sub-second, sub-minute monitoring to be enabled, then you need to enable this option. By default, this is not enabled. So if you want more detailed monitoring for your servers, then, or any other resource that you're talking about, then you need to enable this option. For servers, it lies here. When you go to RDS or some other service, you will see that also. So if you want detailed monitoring, you need to go and enable it, and you remember that it is not a free service for having a sub-minute monitoring. There is additional cost to be paid for that. So there are questions related to those aspects also. So that is one alarm that we created. We still have insufficient data. It is going to take some time, I guess, for the data to completely register here and either designated as insufficient or take an alarm status. Let me go ahead and create another alarm from this time we are going to do it from our alarms dashboard. Go ahead and click on create alarms, and you can see here this is a more complicated way of doing things, because you need to pick up exactly which metric you want to measure, and then based on that you need to trigger an alarm here. So we are having an EC2 instance, and in EC2 there are close to 718 metrics that Amazon offers. So we are going to choose a per instance metric, because we are having only one instance. We don't have an auto scaling group. So click on per instance metric, and it is giving me a big list of options. And if you see here, it is listing only one instance ID. If you go ahead and match it with the instance that we have here, it is IE-0045. In fact, I can even copy this and put it here. Search this metrics. It will automatically, of course I have only one, but in case you have multiple instances and you want to see one particular instance, then you can search for that instance alone and then try to configure a metric for that instance. So let us see all the metrics, and I want to find out the status change. There will be a status change metric here. We just want to choose that one. You can see here the first alarm that we set up as because all the status checks are successful, that is, there is no problems with the CPU or anything, and it has been consecutively checking for every 2 minutes, and it is getting a successful message. So you can see here, this is a status message. I mean, this is the details that we set up for this alarm, and it has reached the OK state. That means all the parameters are good and there is no problems with those parameters. But whereas a new alarm we set up, I wasn't exactly sure how this alarm gets triggered. That is, when I set up to status check failed equal to greater than 0, I set it up at 0 itself to see what happens, and it immediately went into an alarm state, because it tried to measure it and it couldn't exactly measure the parameter, and since our value is greater than 0, it went into an alarm state immediately. So that is where you get an alarm state here. So from this alarm state I got an email also. So if we want to trigger an alarm with this one, I need to throttle the CPU, or I need to increase the network bytes in and out, then it will trigger an alarm. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down the server or stop this server and see if it is going to trigger any alarm. Before that, I want to see if I can increase this or edit this alarm, modify this alarm, and just to say status check failed is status check failed underscore instance, and I'm not exactly sure what this field is. I'm just going to put a 1 here and see what happens, and then I'm going to shut down the server, or I'm just going to stop the server first. Okay, it has changed into OK status now. I'm going to stop the server and see what happens next. Instance state stop, and see which of those two alarms are getting triggered and sends an email to me whenever there is a notification. So basically the two things I wanted to show is, one is creating a topic and subscription in SNS that we saw in the SNS heading that is under the SNS dashboard. That is the first thing that we saw in monitoring, that is the notification topics. Next thing is setting up alarms in your CloudWatch and attaching those alarms to your SNS topics so that emails will be triggered to whoever is subscribed to those topics. So those are the two things I wanted to show. And remember, we already saw how to do this in S3. That is, whenever a bucket is added, modified, deleted, we'll get a notification. Today, we are seeing how to add the notifications or alarms whenever a server changes state. So that is what we are trying to see today. Oh, it says pending notification, pending confirmation. Did we get any confirmation email after that? No, right? Okay, no any pending confirmation. Why does it say that? Actions, let me just go ahead and see configuration status. Where does it waiting for confirmation? I'm not sure, because we already stopped the server and its server must have reached the stop. Oh, it is still stopping. It must have reached the stop state by now. If the instance status check is going to be marked as failed here, or any of those checks is going to be having any problem, then only it is going to trigger that alarm, not for this instance state itself. If you remember, we configured it for system status checks. If the system is going to be completely off or unavailable at the hardware level, then we are going to hit a notification. We just want to trigger a terminate also to see if it will work, to trigger an alarm for those status checks. So what we have done is we have created a dashboard with metrics from our S3 bucket, and I've chosen the numbers option instead of a chart or a graph, because for S3 the important parameters, some of the important parameters are numbers, like number of objects that I have, amount of storage that is used by each of those buckets. As you can see here, it says bucket size bytes and the number of objects. So I have two objects in this bucket, that is Elastic Beanstalk AP South, whereas the amount of storage that is used is about 1 or 2 KB. And whereas when we're talking about Lambda resizer source code, it is having only one object, whereas it is occupying a size of about 100 MB, I mean 10 MB. So if you similarly, you can create a line chart, for example, for your EC2 instance if it is running. Let me just go ahead and do line chart. Lambda probably it would work because we triggered some Lambda. By function name, I have a function name called image resizer. These are the three functions, errors, throttles, this one as well. As of now, nothing is there, I think, so it is not showing any data there. It is not, it deleted the old logs as well, so it is not showing anything. Let us go back and try to do it for EC2 only then, to see if it can pick up any metrics from EC2. Add a widget, line chart, EC2 instance, per instance metric. Nothing is specified here, no name. Okay, let me check a CPU credit balance. No, let me check all the metrics as at least that is showing anything, because it needs a running instance and some data to be picked up. Let us see in the last 1 week what happens if I can trigger some charts. Okay, we have some amount of data to show some charts there. So what I'm trying to show here is nothing, I mean, complicated. You have to create your dashboard according to your customer's needs. So if your customer wants to know how much is CPU credit, or very important, I wanted to show EBS, but unfortunately I don't have any EBS records here. Amount of data that you are having in your EBS, how many snapshots you have, how much storage you have in the snapshots. You can use a combination of those things, and then you can have a dashboard and give it to your monitoring team, or you can configure an alarm based on that. So you can have alarms tied to your dashboard, and you can do that also. So this way, anybody wants to know what is happening in your account, they come to this dashboard and quickly see, okay, these are the things that I have, and these are the things that I want to modify, or these are the things that are causing more budget or more billing. Then I can go and monitor it or edit it or delete it. Say in this case, if I want to remove the metric called byte size objects, where is the metrics? S3 metrics, storage metrics. There are two metrics that is automatically showing here. I don't want to, let us say I don't want to show all the metrics. I just want to show, wait a second, number of objects. You can see here it just filtered by number of objects here, and I'm just going to click on number of objects. As you can see here, the chart automatically changes to number of objects instead of the size that is in my bucket. So that is how you create a dashboard for your account and for your customer based on their needs.